Gary in Mendham, you are entirely full of shit on this subject. First of all, quantum mechanics, if it was used in a brain, would not make things all worse. As we have discussed, possible uses of quantum physics are for things such as to get efficient energy transfer. For example, plants can absorb something like 97% of the solar energy. That's the kind of thing that quantum mechanics would be used to exploit. It wouldn't be used to exploit randomness and make errors. What would be the evolutionary advantage of that? That is ridiculous. Okay, two, there's a realization dawning within you that something being probabilistic doesn't mean it's spontaneously random. Oh, there's maybe three possibilities, but it is between these three possibilities equally possible that each happens, or if not equally, then proportionally. And that is simply a fact of life. All right. Now that doesn't mean there's free will, but it does mean that there's room for free will. You guys keep having this hang up on thinking that you understand cause and effect. There is no way you can prove that cause is related one-to-one to effect. It could be one to many, it could be many to one, it could be many to many. And in fact, it looks like it's many to many. Many causes leading to single effects, one cause leading to many effects, many causes leading to many effects, and so on. That's what it looks like. Now, will means something. It means something. There's a distinction. The kind of behavior that a living creature has to a situation, to an environment, is different than that of an unliving creature. Now, maybe neither one involves choice, but it appears to. And it definitely appears different. It's different enough to categorize in a different category and call that fucking category will. I'm sure of that. Okay. Now, whatever you experience or you think people want, the river doesn't have to have a reason or motivation to go downhill. A living creature does. Okay, to go downhill or uphill, it needs some sort of a motivation. That's enough to get a distinction. Now, how free is it? Well, I think that we take in perceptions and we generate visualization. And with the visualization, we affect the probability of things happening to us. And this is how quantum mechanics could be linked to free will, because in quantum mechanics, if you make something more probable, then it becomes more probable and is more likely to happen. So even though you don't have total control of the situation, you can make one thing more likely than another thing to happen. And that would be willpower, not free will, not spontaneous random will, not will with no reason, and not will that wasn't linked to, in a causal sense. It's just a matter of opening up your mind as to what causal means. Causal has something to do with the continuity of events. It has something to do with the conservation of energy and things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that only one thing can happen as a result of a particular set of initial conditions. It simply doesn't mean that. Now, it might mean that in the long run, but it doesn't mean that now. And you make a lot of crazy statements like, a transistor could be created with Newtonian mechanics. That is simply false. You obviously have no idea what Newtonian mechanics is about or what quantum mechanics is about, and it couldn't be explained with relativity either. The transistor is not a relativistic phenomena as far as we know. Of course, all phenomena have relativistic factors to them, but sometimes those factors are negligible, and that is the case in the transistor. It is primarily a quantum effect. And you say that it's so obvious, but that's crazy, because what you have in a transistor is a piece of wire that will transmit energy in only one direction. Even if you put a voltage in the opposite direction, the current will not flow through it. It will flow in only one direction. And that, my friend, is odd. You don't think it's odd? Well, fine. You don't have to think it's odd, but you do have to think it can't be explained by Newtonian mechanics, because it can't. And that is, again, just a matter of fact. Now, if you don't like this idea that you have a choice to make this video talking about how you don't have a choice to make the video, fine. You don't like it. I like it. I experience it every day. And my quest is to find out how to get more power over it, how to have as much of an influence as possible in this process. Because yes, I do feel I have an influence. And yes, I feel it is really impulchritude in nature to deny that ability and to give up your responsibility and therefore your ability to claim personal autonomy and sovereignty and a personal right of freedom and concern, and especially a right to make your own decisions instead of having your decisions made by some third person that thinks they know better because reality is so goddamn concrete to them that they can tell you what is right for you when they can't. So it's very practical, the implications, both the social and physical implications, very practical, very well proved in the physical sense, and the metaphors should speak for themselves in the social examples and human world examples. You don't like them, you reject them, but you also think a transistor can be explained with Newtonian mechanics, and therefore you are not very credible on this subject. And I'm sorry, and maybe you will block me once again, but whatever, because you are not very credible on this subject, and I feel that I should simply be honest with you and tell you that you lack credibility because you do not understand the physics you're talking about. And it's not that you have to understand it, but if you're going to make statements that would require you to understand it, then in that case you put upon yourself the requirement of understanding it. So read more about classical mechanics, read more about general relativity, and read more about quantum mechanics so that you could understand it. And if you don't want to do that, I understand. But then again, I simply have to tell you and everybody that you are making the random statements in this case. Perhaps it is a quantum effect in your brain causing a random error of totally inexplicable proportion. Thank you.